Hi, Aries, Sun and Rising. Welcome to your February 2022 Astro Update. It's Raina here. And when I was compiling this list, I was like, wow, there's like hardly anything going on. And, February is a short month, but it's not that short. And I think one thing is that in December and maybe November, I can't remember, or even in January, there were a lot more, there's a lot more activity. So it makes this month look like there's nothing happening, but there really is. And one of the things that is happening is that we start the month with a new moon. As I was noting with some of the signs I've done before years, um, where I live, the new moon in Aquarius is actually happening on January 31st. And as I was observing, I never heard anybody talk about this. And I'm in this central standard time zone. And so for people in the Eastern time zone and in Europe, this is actually going to be, and beyond, down under, this is going to be on February 1st. And I believe that's the Chinese New Year as well. So it starts the month off with this fresh energy. And in your case, this is the house that it rules because you're the template for the universal chart, Aries. And so that 11th house and a new moon in the 11th can have different possibilities for different people. First and foremost, it is the house of hopes and wishes. So it's a great time to cultivate your long-term goals, to see what you feel like doing at this time, and that can be very helpful for you to direct your endeavors in the next maybe 6 months or so until the full moon in Aquarius. And the other thing too is that this can be a time of joining new groups. You may just feel compelled to gather with people that you haven't done so before. And this is also supported by the Saturn transit through this house. Of course, you've had Jupiter here, and so that may have provided you opportunities, and this would have been, in the past year or so, to expand your social network. Aries people tend to be extroverted, although now I'm starting to be afraid of saying that because I've had people say, oh, I'm not extroverted, I'm very introverted. And it does depend on where your sun is at. If it's in the 12th house, then yeah, you're going to be more of a hermit no matter what your sun sign is. But in general, you do like to hang with people, kind of have fun. You're a big kid at heart. But there's something serious with that Saturn transit through there. Saturn will be in this 11th house throughout the whole of 2022 and beyond. And Saturn is kind of like the adult in the room and is like, okay, we have to get very serious about our social life here, meaning that people who are leading you in the wrong direction, according to Saturn, have to be let go. Saturn is about that sense of paring down. And so you may have already begun this and not even known that you were doing it, just kind of looking at the people that you had been palling around with and saying, I'm not really feeling this right now. And just naturally drifting away. And I've been, in my online reading endeavors, I have noticed a lot of people saying the same thing. what has happened with the shutdown is it has separated people, not just physically, but with ideology, with the way that they view life itself. And even within families, as a lot of you know. And it can feel very sad when somebody that you thought was a good friend is somebody that you just don't vibe with anymore. And I think that the way that I would do it is just kind of reframe it and saying we're going in different directions, but that doesn't mean that I'll ever forget this person. Maybe I'll even touch base with them now and then. It doesn't mean I'll never talk to them again, but you let them go with love, and you are not, viewing it as a loss, but just a moving on. So anyway, I'm just trying to see here what degree Saturn will be at the time of this new moon. Yeah, Saturn's going to be right in there at the time of that new moon, because Saturn will be at 15 degrees and the new moon will be at 12 degrees. So that's very interesting. I think that, yeah, and of course, the moon, when there's a new moon, the sun and moon are in conjunction, but the moon itself is very emotional. It's obviously not very emotional in Aquarius, but it still is about the emotions, and with a conjunction to or with Saturn, that can really kind of make the person feel like they have to kind of tone it down. They have to do what is right by themselves, and maybe there's a friendship that you need to let go of, and this is the time when it happens for whatever reason. On the but that would be more like full moon energy. This is new moon energy. I'm just thinking in terms of Saturn, the restrictive kind of element there. On the 3rd, Mercury stations direct at 24 degrees of Capricorn. So isn't that interesting, Aries? That is your 10th house of career. So basically what the Mercury retrograde was all about was starting in your 11th house in Aquarius and then moving back into your 10th house. And so this area of hopes and wishes is definitely coming up for you at this time. And you have had to kind of go over something in your mind that is connected to this, because with Saturn in the 11th, Saturn can be the career. Saturn rules the 10th house of career. So in the 11th house, anything that has to do with technology, including, I would say, mass media and your ability to communicate to others. Again, your long-range goals, your relationships, and this can be even professional relationships and like networking. All of that has had to either like really undergo a lot of restrictions in order to get you to choose quality over quantity, or just having to figure out new ways to do things because you can't do them in the other way. There's been some kind of an obstacle or restriction. And so this is about problem solving, I feel like, that is career related. If you notice any slowdown with your work situation, just understand that Mercury is going direct on the 3rd. So Mercury is, I hope I said that Mercury is going direct and not just going back into Capricorn. I have a strange feeling I said something like that. They have to do what is right by themselves, and maybe there's a friendship that you need to let go of, and this is the time when it happens for whatever reason. On the but that would be more like full moon energy. This is new moon energy. I'm just thinking in terms of Saturn, the restrictive kind of element there. On the 3rd, Mercury stations direct at 24 degrees of Capricorn. So, yeah, I just checked. I did say that it was direct. And so you may have had some kind of slowdown. And even when Mercury goes direct, there's still going to be a couple of weeks of it being in its shadow. So just keep that in mind. Actually, on the 14th, Mercury goes back into Aquarius. So it's back into the 11th house. And you will have your mind, when it goes into the 11th house, into those long range goals that may have absolutely nothing to do with your career. Just what you want to bring in, what kind of like hopes or dreams you have. By the way, the 11th house can be the house of gains. So there could be some financial gain from this, although I look specifically with Venus, and in terms of, and that's going to be more of a March thing when Venus goes into Aquarius. So that might indicate the gains, but maybe you're thinking about this aspect of it, like how your career is doing. But, and especially since Mercury has been through there may have been some kind of slowdown that you have to kind of figure out a way to jumpstart things. On the 16th, there's a full moon at 28 degrees of Leo. Leo is another fire sign, so it's a very friendly angle called a trine, and things tend to manifest quite readily when you have planets trining each other. Of course, for it to be an official trine, it has to be with an orb. And I'll confess something. I'm not somebody who has memorized all of the different orbs, how they connect with different planetary combinations. It's not all the same, and some astrologers have looser orbs or tighter orbs than others. I'm not primarily a predictive astrologer in the classic sense, where I'm just like really into all the technical aspects of it. So I consult the chart table from astro.com for my own calculations, But anyway, this is a late degree of Leo, and this is the 5th house for you, and this is a very nice area. This is the house of creativity, the house of love, the house of children. Oh man, this could be a very fruitful time. So if you're trying to conceive, if you're trying to impregnate someone, you might succeed at that. And maybe you've tried more than once in the past, and finally it's taking to it. But the other thing too is that this could be the end of a creative project, and you're putting the finishing touches on it, or you have a great idea. I don't know. When I think of the later degrees of the full moon, I think of finishing some type of creative work. On the 18th, the sun goes into Pisces, and this is, and one more thing about the full moon in that 5th house with love, this can be really, receiving a download or just having it come to you, however you characterize it, that somebody in your immediate environment is actually the love of your life. So if you kind of pal around with someone and they happen to be the gender that you are attracted to, but for some reason they just seem like just a friend. It could be because you have been attracted to the wrong element in someone. And maybe you've had multiple relationships where you've had to learn the hard way, Aries. I always talk about Aries and lust and being very lusty. And I say this about Leo. I say this sometimes with Taurus, but at the very least, Taurus is ruled by Venus, so that can change things a little bit. But Aries is ruled by Mars. Mars can be the sex drive, so that is straight up a sign that may be quite concerned with the physical or sexual compatibility or just sexual relations to your detriment, because approaching relationships from that angle can be very disastrous as far as I'm concerned. Not to say that that might be true all the time, but I think that there's enough evidence that people who are in those what I call one-dimensional relationships is that it's very hard for them to have that kind of emotional bond, because it's really the using of each other's bodies. I mean, I hate to put it that way, but that's how it can be at the worst level. And that can just lead to a lot of degrading interactions. And the person may not realize it right away. It might take time for them to see that they don't feel good afterwards, that they don't feel whole, they don't feel cared for or nurtured or appreciated in a wholesome way. And I don't know, I didn't mean to lecture or moralize. It's really not about morality. It's about like getting what you want. And this is about love. So you might have, either some kind of a psychological breakthrough or emotional breakthrough, or an actual download that you don't feel is necessarily something that you thought yourself, that maybe you've connection with your higher self or whatever, an entity that you channel telling you this person is the right one for you. On the 18th, the sun goes into Pisces, and for you, this is that 12th house, the hibernation period. Aries in hibernation isn't the easiest thing. Unless your sun is in the 12th house in your chart, maybe that would make it a little bit easier for you to handle. But usually Aries is so active that anything that discourages a lot of physical movement, a lot of outer activity, can feel to Aries like it's a major obstacle in their life, instead of a chance to slow down, reflect, and become renewed. And then you have your solar return and you can take off from the ground running because you're starting a whole new cycle. So anyway, another thing I wanted to mention before I go is just kind of like an auspicious time, or could be an auspicious time. So I was joking about the 2222222, which I think is going to be very cool. But I was talking about when Jupiter sextiles Uranus. But now that I think about it, what am I thinking? We also have Venus trining Uranus. Both Venus and Jupiter are associated with money. And with friendly angles to Uranus, it could be something like that as a happy surprise that comes out of left field. But I was just focused on Jupiter because I usually don't do these. I usually don't mention these things. And it's like, wow. And yeah, I mean, in February, during the second week of February, they're going to be like not exactly in conjunction, but like a degree or two apart. Venus, and with Jupiter, they'll be exact sextile, or I'm sorry, not conjunction, but trines. With Jupiter, it'll be a sextile, which is another friendly angle. And this is exact from the 17th of February until the 21st. But then it'll still be within orb. It'll still be close enough to be considered a sextile. So just to let you know that there may be, even if like right now you're saying, oh, there's no way I could attract money to me because there's nothing going on, I'm retired, or if you're on disability or something like that, but you never have any idea how that could play out. And it always, to me, is a better idea to entertain the notion of it so that you make it even something that you welcome in, knowing that there's always possibilities out here. Okay, that's what I have for you, Aries. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.